Equivalent fractions. Visualizes and generates equivalent fractions. What's new? Equivalent fractions are fractions whose values are equal. They show the same fractional part. What can you say about the figure below? To have a better understanding about equivalent fraction, let's try this activity. Get a sheet of paper and a red crayon. We can form different figures from folding papers. Then answer the questions that follows. 1. Fold the paper in half. Color one half of it. How many halves are formed? 2 halves are formed. What fraction represent the colored part? 1/2. Two. Fold the paper again. Count the total number of parts. How many parts are colored red now? Colored red now have 2 parts. What fraction represents the colored parts? 2/4. What do you notice with the colored parts in both fractions? Correct. They have the same shaded portion. Fractions like 1/2 and 2/4 show the same fractional part. They are fractions with the same value, shaded portion. Fractions that have the same value are called equivalent fractions. Finding an equivalent fraction. To find equivalent fractions, we multiply or divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. There are 2 ways in which we can make equivalent fractions. Multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. Divide the numerator and denominator by the same number. For example, we have to find 3 equivalent fractions for 1/3. We can multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2 in order to get an equivalent fractions. 1 times 2 equals 2. 3 times 2 equals 6. We got 2/6. 2/6 in an equivalent fraction of 1/3. Now let's multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3 in order to get an equivalent fractions. We got 3/9. 3/9 in an equivalent fraction of 1/3. Now let's multiply the numerator and the denominator by 4. We got 4/12. 4/12 in an equivalent fraction of 1/3. The 3 equivalent fractions for 1/3 are 2/6, 3/9 and 4/12. For example, we have to find equivalent fraction for 35/50. You need to get the common factor for both numerator and denominator. The common factor for 35 and 50 is 5. 35 divide 5 equals 7. 50 divide 5 equals 10. The equivalent fraction for 35/50 is 7/10. Let's have more examples. What should be multiplied to the numerator and denominator of 2/5 to make it equivalent to 8/20? Answer: 4. What should be divided to the numerator and denominator of 20/25 to make it equivalent to 4/5? Answer: 5. How to check whether the fractions are equivalent or not? We can determine the equivalent fractions on identical shapes and check whether the shaded portions are equal or not. In the above image, we see the shaded portions of both the circles 2/8 and 3/12 depicts the same value. So, they are equivalent fractions. We can determine the equivalent fractions by cross-multiplication method. 2 times 12 equals 24 and 8 times 3 equals 24. Since both the products are same, the fractions are equivalent. Let's have more examples. Complete the pair of equivalent fractions. In the previous example, we determined that equivalent fractions have same product by cross-multiplication method. 3 times 15 equals 45. To find the missing denominator, we will have the equation (times 9 equals 45). We can cross-multiply the 9. 45 divide 9 equals 5. The missing denominator is 5. Activity 1. Use the figure to find the equivalent fractions. Write your answers in the box. Activity 2. Complete the pair of equivalent fractions. Activity 3. Which of these pairs are equivalent fractions? Activity 4. Look for a pattern. Complete each set of equivalent fractions.